I think my first biggest concern right now is when it's going to be adopted, because for me, and I think especially for a country's operation, it is a great roadmap of what should be included in the covered bond. And I understand that for the established covered bond markets right now, there are a lot of concerns and points that they want to discuss. I'm happy that some of the things like a third country's recognition of covered bonds is all going to be changed. But for me, I really selfishly would like the directive to be adopted as soon as possible, because it would also create a template for covered bond countries to really look at what it is that should create or be good in terms of creating a good covered bond. That's the first point in my mind. And second, it also in a way would be a door opener for the reform and for further improvements in the legislation, because we have to remember that directive is not a self-standing sufficient covered bond framework. You still have to have your national legal framework included, and that where EBRD and other international financial institutions could come and support governments in implementing the directive and upgrading their legal framework so the bonds are all rated at least AAA.
Well, actually, my concerns are not only mine. We have already had a meeting with the other Finnish issuers, and the major concerns there were basically related to the excessive amount of liquidity that we have put in the pool. This is not actually a habit in Finland at all. We have thought that basically the LCR requirements and NSFR are already enough, basically covering the liquidity issue. So that's something new for us, at least. Okay. The other thing that we are concerned basically is related to these soft bullet treatments. And not only in this case, basically the extension of maturity is what it is actually for say the Dutch pass-through type of a structure, rather than who is initiating the soft bullet structure. If it's changed so that it's the authorities only in a case of already a troubled bank, then the soft bullet actually loses of its importance, because now we can use the soft bullets to avoid these types of situations where the bank is already in trouble. So there we have a bit of an issue. One thing also is that obviously the quality of the covered bonds name or brand, that if we are introducing now a almost good covered bonds and perfect covered bonds, we'd like to actually have covered bonds always perfect covered bonds, so rather than we have a layers of different. So let's call them just the secured notes rather than ordinary covered bonds or whatever they were. So those probably are at least the ones that come to my mind.
My biggest concern is generally that the product is supposed to be a simple product, easily understandable by everybody. And I think that there is always an effort to try to harmonize it, simplify it, that ends up again to a lot of disputes. So I think that what we should focus on this directive is keep three simple principles that regardless of it is a pass-through or a bullet bond, if the issuer misses the payment date, that this should be a cross default to all its liability side, that we provide as much as transparency we can to the investors with the cover pool details, and I think that then we can say that we will have done quite a good job. If we try to make it more complex by including more exemptions or anything like that, then again I think that it will not offer what it's supposed to offer.
Well, I think Canadian issuers are concerned that the covered bond directive perpetuates the disadvantage that the Canadian issuers have. Canadian covered bonds are not eligible for preferential capital treatment, and they're not eligible for level 1 LCR treatment. And that's the existing situation, and the directive would perpetuate that. The question of third-party issuer equivalence treatment is put off for a study and a report to be delivered in 3 years. And it still leaves a great deal of uncertainty about whether or when there would be a determination of equivalency that would qualify Canadian covered bonds for equal treatment. So it leaves them at a disadvantage in the market. It affects their pricing, obviously. And it operates a little bit like a non-tariff barrier to free trade, right? So I think that's the principal concern.